Hey guys, glad you could make it. Tonight, we're journeying back to ancient Egypt, to the golden empire of the pharaohs. But we're not going to the glittering throne room, or the vast, sun-drenched temples of the living. We're going to the one place every single person, from the pharaoh to the baker, was desperate to go, but also desperate to avoid. We're heading to the west bank of the Nile, to the House of Beauty, to look at the grim, messy, and profoundly physical reality of mummification, and the dark human rituals of the god who oversaw it all. If these slow journeys into the forgotten gritty corners of the past help you find a moment of quiet in your own world, a simple like or subscribe is always appreciated. It's a quiet way to help this little community of ours continue to grow. And as always, it's wonderful to see where everyone is tuning in from. Our community is a truly global one, so feel free to share what part of the world you're listening from as you get comfortable and settle in for the night. Alright, it's time to let the present day fade away. Find that perfect position. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow down. Take a long, slow breath. And as you let it all out, just feel the noise and the hurry of your day dissolve. Good. The year is 1450 BC during the height of the New Kingdom. The place is the west bank of Thebes, the necropolis, the land of the dead. You are Nebamun, and your job is complicated. You are a Wab Sekhmet, a priest of the goddess Sekhmet, but that's just a polite, slightly intimidating title. You are, in fact, an embalmer, a Hetemu Netja, a servant of the god. You don't work in the gleaming white stone temples of Amun-Ra across the river, where the air smells of roasting oxen and the purest incense. You work here, in a dusty, isolated compound of low, mud-brick buildings and open-air tents, set far back against the hot limestone cliffs. This is the Wabet, the pure place. This name is a masterpiece of bureaucratic spin. It is perhaps the most profound piece of irony in the entire kingdom. Because the Wabet is not pure, it is the place where purity is manufactured, and the manufacturing process is unbelievably messy. The air here doesn't smell of clean incense, it smells of other things. The sharp, mineral, chemical tang of natron salt, which cakes the ground like a white frost and stings the inside of your nose. It smells of the heavy, sweet and spicy scent of cedar oil, myrrh, and cassia. And underneath all of that, no matter how much incense you burn, is the thick, metallic, unavoidable, and deeply unsettling smell of decay. This is your office. You live in a small, segregated village nearby, a purpose-built community for the workers of the necropolis. Your neighbours are the tomb cutters, the stonemasons, the painters, and the coffin makers. You are all the Aminu Tajeza, the people of the sacred land, and you are all considered unclean. Not just physically dirty from your work, but ritually impure. You are a walking, talking, breathing contamination. You are a man who touches death for a living. The living do not mix with you. When you must walk into the main city of Thebes to collect supplies, the crowds part. People avert their eyes. They give you a wide berth. A female baker will take your payment, but she will not let your hand touch hers. She will place your bread on the counter and wait for you to pick it up, as if your very skin might curse her ovens. You are a holy man. You are a priest. You are performing the most vital service in the entire Egyptian belief system. You are the one who ensures a man has an afterlife, and you are also a social pariah. You are respected, you are feared, and you are deeply, deeply avoided. You have learned to live with the contradiction. You are a man who bridges the gap, the terrifying dark space between the world of the living and the eternal Dwight, the underworld. And you do it with your hands. You are not a mystic. You are not a magician, whispering words from a scroll. You are a technician. You are an artisan, a craftsman of the highest order. And your craft is the most important one in all of Egypt, ensuring that the physical body, the cat, does not rot away, but can instead survive its long journey to become a sah, a divine, eternal, and perfected form. You are, in short, a high-end, holy taxidermist. You arrive at the Wabet in the cool of the morning. The compound is already busy. It is not a single grand temple. It is a collection of functional mud brick buildings. There is the Per Nefer, the House of Beauty, which is the main receiving and finishing workshop. There is the Wabet proper, the Pure Place, a large, open-air walled enclosure where the real chemical work happens. And there are the storage sheds, piled high with linen, with jars of oil and resin, and with mountains of grey-white natron. The hierarchy here is just as rigid as in the temples. At the very top is the Hairy Seshta, the overseer of the mystery. He is your boss. He is the project manager of the afterlife. He's the one who knows the prayers, the rituals, and, most importantly, the pricing. Beneath him are the Wab priests, like you. You are the senior technicians. Then there are the Hetamu, the linen keepers, or wrappers, who handle the endless, meticulous bandaging. And at the very bottom is the Parashistas, the slicer. He has one job. It is the most despised and the most necessary job of all. You try to stay on his good side. Today, a new client arrives. You do not see the body at first. You hear it. The sound of wailing, a high-pitched, ululating, theatrical cry that echoes off the limestone cliffs. It is a procession, moving slowly along the dusty causeway from the river. At the front are the Jarret. These are the professional female mourners, hired for the occasion. Their hair is undone, caked with fistfuls of grey dust. Their robes are torn, their chests exposed. They beat their breasts with their palms. A rhythmic, hollow thump, thump, thump. They scrape at their cheeks, streaking their faces with mud from the riverbank. This is not just grief. This is ritual. This is the first vital step. The public, chaotic, loud display of sorrow, showing the world that a great man has fallen. Behind them, on a heavy wooden sledge pulled by two slow-moving, dark-hided oxen, is the body. It is wrapped in a simple white linen sheet. Following the sledge is the family, their grief quiet, real, and etched onto their faces. The chief male relative, a younger man with the shaved head of a scribe, walks at the front, his back straight, his expression lost. The women of the family follow. Their quiet sobs are stark contrast to the shrieking of the professionals. The procession halts at the outer gate of your compound. They can go no further. The living do not enter the Wabet. Your boss, the Hairy Seshta, goes out to meet them. He is a tall man, his movements precise. He is not wailing. He is calm, respectful, professional. He holds a wooden pallet and a reed brush, the tools of a scribe. And the negotiation begins. This is the first brutal reality of the Egyptian afterlife. It is not a right, it is a service. And it has price points. The Hairy Seshta is, in this moment, a funeral director. He is respectfully upselling. He presents the options to the grieving son. Does your honoured father, he murmurs, require the finest preservation? This is the Grade A package, the 70-day process. The finest imported resins from Syria, the purest cedar oil, the most meticulous wrapping with royal grade linen. Or perhaps the Grade B package? A quicker, process. No incision. The insides are flushed with cedar oil, and the body is simply dried in natron. It's effective, but not as permanent. Or, the grade C? For the man on a budget. A simple salt and tar job. Quick, cheap, and, well, you get what you pay for. The son, his face pale, does not hesitate. His father was a wealthy, respected scribe of the granaries of Amun. He must have the best. He must be presented to the gods in his most perfect, eternal form. The grade A package. The hairy Seshtar nods, gravely. He makes a note on a shard of pottery, an ostracon. A price is agreed upon. It is not paid in coins. It is paid in things. Sacks of emmer wheat and barley, several head of cattle, bolts of fine linen, jars of wine and beer. The afterlife is, in essence, a massive interdepartmental barter. The deal is struck. The scribal son gives his final weeping goodbye, touching the linen-wrapped form on the sledge. And then he leaves. The family turns, their own wails now joining the professionals. The procession moves away. The body is now yours. It is no longer a father. It is the work. You and two other male Wab priests, your colleagues, step forward. You bow ritually to the form. Then you lift it. It is heavy. It is limp. It is a physical, heavy, awkward thing. This is the moment of transition. The man is gone. The Sah, the eternal body, has not yet been made. You are in the in-between. You carry the body from the hot, bright sunlight, past the outer walls, and into the shadow of the Per Nefer, the house of beauty. This is the main workshop. It's a large mud brick hall, or perhaps a heavy open-sided tent. The most important feature is the high slatted windows near the roof. Ventilation. The gods, it seems, appreciate a cross breeze. And frankly, so do you. The smell of natron and old resin is strong in here. The body is laid out on a long, sloping wooden table. For a wealthy client like this, it might even be a solid, polished limestone slab. The slab is angled, with a shallow U-shaped groove running around all four edges. At the low end, this groove funnels into a spout, which juts out over a simple wide-mouthed clay pot resting on the dusty floor. This is not an altar. This is a workstation. A purpose-built piece of industrial ritual equipment. You are a senior Wab priest, but you still have junior duties. Your first job is washing. This is the first purification. You and another male assistant fetch large, heavy, two-handled pottery jars of palm wine. You pour the wine, sharp and tangy, over the body from head to foot. The wine cuts through the dust and grime of the journey. You take coarse linen cloths and you scrub the skin. This is not a gentle bath. It is a scouring, a disinfection. The wine is a powerful, low-grade alcohol. It is a solvent. You scrub the arms, the legs, the torso, the face. Then, you fetch jars of cold, clear water, hauled from the sacred Nile. You rinse the wine and all the impurities away. The runoff streams down the sloping slab, into the grooves, and trickles from the spout into the clay pot. The body is now ritually clean. And now, the real work begins. The work that separates the eternal from the decayed. The hairy Seshtar, your boss, is present. He murmurs a low, rhythmic chant. You hear the words, but you're focused on the action. He nods to the most senior embalmer, a man who has done this 1,000 times. This man takes a long, thin bronze tool from a wooden box. It is shaped like a hook, with a small, spiral, corkscrew-like end. It is polished and sharp. The senior embalmer tilts the head of the nobleman. He takes a small bronze chisel and a wooden mallet. He places the chisel just inside the man's left nostril. He gives a single, sharp tap. There is a hard breaking sound. a small, dry crack. It is the sound of the hook or chisel breaking through the ethmoid bone, the thin, papery, honeycomb-like plate that separates the nasal cavity from the brain. You wince, just as you did the first time you saw it. It is a brutal, necessary sound. Now the bronze hook is inside the skull. The senior embalmer begins to rotate it. He moves it back and forth vigorously. He is, quite literally, scrambling the man's brains. He is liquefying the contents of the skull. It is a precise, practiced, and gruesome act. After a few minutes of this churning, he stops. The hook is removed. He tilts the head to the side, over the edge of the slab, and a thick, grey-pink viscous fluid begins to drain from the nostril into a special, waiting, clay bowl. The brain, the Metanentep, is not considered important. It is, in your belief system, simply skull stuffing. The Egyptians believed the heart was the seat of intelligence, of consciousness, of memory, of emotion. The brain, it was just filler. You will take that bowl, filled with the nobleman's lifetime of knowledge, his memories, his skills, his thoughts, and you will discard its contents. It will be thrown into a waste pit, or perhaps simply dumped on the desert floor. The afterlife, it seems, does not require much thinking. But the job is not done. The brain is a stubborn, fatty organ. It does not all drain. You, as the assistant, must now clean the cavity. You take long, thin strips of linen. You dip one in hot liquid resin, or perhaps just palm wine. You take a long bronze or wooden stick, and you use it to carefully feed the linen strip up into the empty nasal passage, deep into the cranial cavity. You are, in essence, mopping up. You pull the strip back, and it is caked in the last clinging grey fragments. You do this again, and again. You are meticulous. When you are satisfied the skull is empty, it must be sterilized and filled. You take a small clay funnel. You place it in the nostril. You take a jar of hot, liquid pine resin. It is black and smells sharp and sweet. You pour the resin into the funnel. It fills the empty cranial cavity, coating every surface. This will harden, preventing any lingering decay. The head is now prepared. It is a brutal, physical, and profoundly strange process. But it is only the beginning. Now you must attend to the body itself. The senior embalmer steps back. A new figure approaches. This man is different. He is not one of your wub priests. He wears a simple, rough leather apron. His hair is unkempt. He is the paraschists, the slicer. He is ritually, permanently unclean. His job is singular, and it is despised by all. He holds a knife. It is not a bronze weapon. A metal knife is considered impure for this. He holds a ritual tool, a knife of dark volcanic obsidian, or perhaps a sharp, newly knapped piece of flint. Its natural glass-like edge is sharper than any metal. The hairy Seshta, your boss, steps forward. He takes a reed pen, dips it in black, carbon ink. He draws a simple horizontal line on the nobleman's left flank, just above the hip, in the soft flesh of the abdomen. A simple 4-inch line. This is the dotted line. This is the only place the body may be cut. The paraschites takes a deep breath. He looks at the mark. He raises the obsidian knife. He makes a single, deep, swift, and confident cut. The moment the skin is broken, the entire atmosphere of the wabet changes. It is theatre. It is required theatre. The instant the cut is made, you and the other pure wab priests suddenly turn on the parashistas. You shout. You roar curses at him. Abomination! Defiler! You bend down, pick up loose stones from the ground, stones left there specifically for this purpose, and you throw them at him. You're not trying to hit him. Well, not hard. You are fulfilling the ritual. He has harmed the body. He has desecrated the divine form. He has committed an act of violence. He must be punished. The slicer, playing his part in this ancient grim play, drops his obsidian knife. He raises his arms over his head, wailing as if in terror. He flees from the workshop, running out into the hot, bright sun, with you and the other priests chasing him, shouting all the way. He will hide for an hour or so. He will wait for his ritual impurity to settle. Then he will quietly return, clean his knife, and wait for the next client. He has a dirty job, a despised job, but it's a living. He is the designated scapegoat for the entire operation. His sin has just made your next action pure. Now the body is ritually open. The paraschists has taken the sin of the incision upon himself. You, the Wob priest, are clean, and it is your turn. You are the Hetemu, the eviscerator. You dip your right hand and arm in a large bowl of palm wine, rinsing it to the shoulder, and you put your hand inside. You push your hand and forearm deep into the dark, cold, wet cavity of the nobleman's chest and abdomen. The smell is overwhelming. It is the smell of copper, of salt, of life, turned stagnant. You are trained. You do not gag. You are a professional. Your fingers, guided by practice, find what they are seeking in the darkness. You are not cutting. You are gathering. Your fingers grope. Find the slick, firm mass of the liver. You find the ligaments that hold it. You sever them with your fingers, or perhaps with a small bronze spoon-like knife. You pull out the stomach. You pull out the long, coiled, surprisingly heavy mass of the intestines. You reach up, high into the chest, past the soft, yielding diaphragm. You find the lungs, spongy and strange. You pull them out. It is a messy, bloody, profoundly physical job. You are, quite literally, gutting a man. But you're doing it with religious precision. One organ, however, must not be removed. Your fingers feel for it, nestled in the centre of the chest. The ib, the heart. It is a dense, muscular, fist-sized lump. This stays. It must stay. The heart, you believe, is the seat of the man's bar. His personality, his intelligence, his soul. It is the physical record of his entire life. It is the only witness he can bring to the afterlife. It will be weighed in the hall of two truths, against the feather of Ma'at, the feather of truth. If it is heavy with bad deeds, it will be fed to Amit, the devourer. You cannot remove the heart. You carefully work around it, leaving it perfectly intact, tethered in the empty chest. The organs you have removed are not discarded like the brain. They are sacred. They are the Mesuheru, the sons of Horus, and they have their own divine afterlife. You take the four organs, the stomach, the intestines, the liver, the lungs, and you carry them, a wet, heavy bundle, to another table. You wash them, one by one, in bowls of palm wine. You dry them carefully with strips of linen. You rub them with fragrant resins and sweet-smelling spices. And then you place them in their own containers, the canopic jars. For a client this wealthy, they are not simple clay pots. They are 4 beautiful, heavy alabaster jars. Each jar has a lid carved into the shape of one of the 4 divine protectors. You have seen them 1,000 times, painted on tomb walls. Now you hold them. You carefully coil the intestines and place them inside the jar with the falcon-headed lid. The jar for Kebesenuef. You fold the lungs and place them in the jar with the baboon-headed lid for Hapi. The stomach goes to the jackal-headed Duamatef, the liver, to the human-headed imsity. You have just divided the nobleman's viscera among the gods. His insides are now safe. The body is now an empty, hollowed-out shell, save for the heart. Your arms are covered in grime and fluid up to the elbows. You go to a large copper basin at the edge of the workshop. You scour your hands and arms with sand and water, scrubbing until your skin is raw. You are a holy man. You are a priest, and you are covered in the physical reality of death. The contradiction is your daily life. Now, the empty cavity must be cleaned. This is your job. You take long-handled swabs, like giant, coarse mops made of linen-wrapped sticks. You dip them in a large vat of palm wine. You reach deep inside the chest cavity, scrubbing and scouring every surface. You dip them in cedar oil. You scrub again. You must remove every last trace of blood, every fragment of tissue. You do this again and again until the inside is clean. Then you pack the hollow torso temporarily. You stuff it with linen bags filled with natron and with bundles of fragrant, drying herbs, myrrh, cassia, and onion. You must dry this body from the inside as well as the outside. The nobleman is now prepared. He is clean. He is empty. He is ready for the most important stage of all. You and the other assistants lift the prepared body. It is lighter now, but still awkward. You carry it from the Per Nefer, the House of Beauty, and you walk out into the blinding hot desert sun. You carry it to the Wabet proper. This is the pure place, the drying house. It is a large, high-walled, mud-brick enclosure, open to the sky. The floor is covered in a thick, white, glittering layer of natron. This is the key. This is the magic. Natron is a natural dehydrating salt, a blend of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, harvested from the dry lake beds of the Wadi El Natron, far to the north. It is the divine salt of the earth. It is baking soda. And you have piles of it, mountains of it. The nobleman is laid on a low sloping stone slab, or perhaps a special raised wicker and wood bed to allow airflow. And you begin to bury him, not in sand, but in natron. You scoop it up with your hands. You use wide wooden shovel-like boards. You pile the grey-white crystalline salt high, covering his legs, his torso, his arms, his head. You make sure every single inch of skin is in direct physical contact with the dry caustic salt. You take smaller bags of powdered natron and you place them inside the hollowed out, temporarily stuffed cavity. You are, in essence, salt curing a human being. It is the exact same technology you would use to preserve a fish from the Nile or a leg of beef for a long journey. It is sacred. It is divine. And it is industrial dehydration. And now, you wait. This is the long, slow, quiet, and most crucial part of the ritual. The body must remain buried in its salt mound for 40 days. The natron will do its work. It is a powerful desiccant. It will pull every last drop of moisture from the skin, the muscle, the bone. It will also saponify the body fats, turning them into a kind of soap, making them stable. This is the period of transformation. This is when the AAT, the physical decay, is halted, defeated by the power of the salt. But for you, Nebamun, it is not a 40-day vacation. The Wabet is an assembly line. The nobleman is on slab number 3. On slab number 2, a visitor's brother, Nebson, is on day 38 of his drying. He is almost done. On slab number 4, a wealthy merchant's wife, Senet, is on day 12. And a new client, a grade B, has just arrived at the outer tent. Your days are a cycle. You are washing one body, eviscerating another, and checking the salt. You walk between the drying slabs, your sandals crunching on the loose natron. The air is dry, chemical, stinging your nostrils. You check on the nobleman. The natron piled around him is no longer dry. It is heavy, damp, clumpy and dark, soaked with the fluids it has pulled from the body. You must change it. You and an assistant scoop away the wet, heavy, foul-smelling salt. You discard it. You bring in fresh, dry natron from the storage shed, and you pile it back up, covering the body once more. You are a holy technician in a sacred factory, and the product is eternity. The 40 days are over. The hairy Seshta, your boss, inspects the nobleman. He pokes the body with a stick. It is firm. It is dry. He nods. The salt has done its work. You and the other assistants brush away the piles of dry, grey, clumpy natron. The body is changed. It is unrecognizable. It is not the pale, soft-skinned scribe who arrived here. It is a shrunken, leathery, dark grey thing. It is stiff, light and hollow. The skin is like old, dried parchment, pulled tight over the bones. The face is a gaunt, skeletal mask. It is preserved. It is the Sa, the eternal form, but it is not beautiful. Not yet. You carry the shrunken, desiccated body back to the Pernefa, the house of beauty. The next stage begins, the re-beautification. The body is washed again, this time with sacred Nile water, to remove every last grain of the clinging, corrosive salt. The temporary stuffing, the bags of natron and old herbs, is removed from the body cavity. The inside is rinsed again. Now the skin is loose. The drying process has left it hollow, empty. Your job is to make it look alive again. This is where the artistry comes in. This is why it's called the House of Beauty. You take bags of clean, dry, new linen. You take packets of sawdust. You take bundles of myrrh and other sweet-smelling resins. And you begin stuffing the body. You pack the hollow cheeks from the inside through the mouth. You fill the sunken, empty eye sockets, sometimes with small linen pads or even onions. Their round, layered shape gives a perfect, lifelike semblance of an eyeball under the closed, leathery lid. You pack the chest cavity. You pack the abdomen. You're rebuilding the man's form, giving him the shape and the bulk he had in life. You're a sculptor, and your medium is a dried-out, hollowed-out man. When the body is plump again, you sew the incision shut with a coarse bronze needle and linen thread. You place a small, warmed beeswax plate over the stitches, sealing it. Now, you anoint it. This is the most expensive part. This is what the family paid for. You rub the dark, leathery skin with gallons of fragrant, precious oils. Palm oil to make the skin supple. Costly, imported cedar oil. Cassia. Cinnamon. Myrrh. Frankincense. The workshop, which before smelled of chemicals and decay, now fills with a cloud of heavy, spicy, rich perfume. This is the Set Necha, the scent of the god. It is also, not coincidentally, a very good antibacterial and antifungal agent, and it masks any lingering off odours. The body is now stable, it is full, it smells divine. And now, the wrapping. This is the Sesh Necha, the divine linen, and it is your most important final ritual. This will take 15 days. This is where the hairy Seshta, the overseer of the mystery, truly earns his title. He is not just a foreman now. He is a god. He goes to the sacred wooden chest in the corner. He opens it, and he removes the mask. It is a lightweight wooden mask, carved and painted to resemble the head of a jackal. It is black, with a long, fine snout, and tall, alert, squared-off ears. It is the face of Yinapu, Anubis, the god who is upon his mountain, the lord of the sacred land. Your boss places the mask over his own head, and he changes. He is no longer your boss, Power. He is Anubis. His voice, when he speaks, is muffled, distant, inhuman, coming from the black snout. He begins to chant, a low, rhythmic, ancient sound. He is reciting the words that will magically remember the nobleman, making his body whole and divine. You, his assistant, are silent. You are in the presence of the god. You are watching the dark ritual, and the god is your manager, wearing a wooden headpiece, reading from a papyrus. But you believe. You must believe. The ritual is everything. The action is the magic. Under the god's supervision, the wrapping begins. This is not a quick, sloppy job. This is meticulous. You have bolts and bolts of the finest white linen, provided by the family's payment. You begin with the fingers. You wrap each finger one by one in tiny, fine strips of linen. You wrap each toe one by one. You wrap the arms, the legs, keeping them separate at first. The priest in the jackal mask, your boss, chants. His voice a low hum. He anoints the linen with every layer, painting it with hot liquid black resin, which acts as a sacred glue and sealant. Between the layers, you place the meket, the amulets. These are the magical insurance policies for the afterlife. You, the Wob priest, know where they go. You place a small green faience djed pillar on the throat to give him a strong backbone. You place a red jasper det amulets, the knot of Isis, on his chest for protection. You place small faience figures of the four sons of Horus back on the body, over the places where the organs used to be. And finally, over the heart, the most important one, you place a large, heavy green stone scarab, a beetle. This is the heart scarab. You place it on the chest over the spot where you know the real dried heart rests, silent and dry. You're not a scribe, but you know what this amulet is for. It is to protect the heart from itself. It is to prevent the heart from speaking against the nobleman, from blurting out all his bad deeds during the great weighing. It's the ancient, divine equivalent of pleading the fifth. Finally, after 15 days of wrapping, anointing and placing amulets, the body is a single, tight, hard, resin-soaked cocoon. The limbs are bound to the body. It is a compact, dense, human-shaped object. A final, large linen shroud is wrapped around the entire form. On this shroud, a painter, another specialist from the necropolis, has drawn a large, full-length portrait of the god of the dead, Osiris, his arms crossed. The nobleman is now finished. He is no longer Horemheb, the scribe. He is the Osiris Horemheb. He is complete. He is divine. The 70 days are complete. The work of the Wabet is done. The jackal mask is removed, cleaned, and put back in its sacred box. Your boss is just your boss again. The mummified, wrapped Sah is placed into its nest of heavy, wooden, human shpade coffins, which have been just as meticulously carved and painted in another workshop. The lid is sealed. Your job is over. The next day, the family returns. The professional mourners are wailing again. The coffin is presented to them. A perfect, divine, eternal object, painted with eyes so it can see. You watch from the shadows of the workshop. You see the scribal son's face. He is weeping, but this time there is relief. His father is safe. You watch as the coffin is placed on the ox-drawn sledge. The procession begins, moving from your workshop not to the river, but to the man's tomb, his house of eternity that has been carved into the cliffs. Another set of priests, the Sem priests, will take over now. They will perform the final, most important ritual, the opening of the mouth. They will touch the coffin's face with ritual tools, magically restoring the nobleman's ability to eat, see, and speak in the afterlife. But that is not your job. You do not watch the procession go. You turn and you walk back into the Per Nefer. The sloping limestone slab is empty. The pot at the end is full. You pick up a coarse linen scrubber. You fetch a jar of palm wine. You begin to wash the slab, scouring away the salt, the oil, the dried blood, and the resin. You are Nebamun. You are a holy man. You are a priest. You are a servant of the gods. And you have a new client arriving in an hour. The assembly line of eternity never stops. We look back at the mummies and we see magic. We see a serene, golden, mystical religion, obsessed with a perfect, eternal afterlife. But the brutal reality is that this eternity wasn't just a belief. It was an industry. It was a trade. It was a messy, smelly, chemical, and profoundly physical job, performed by skilled, underappreciated, and ritually dirty technicians. The Dark Rituals of Anubis weren't just the chanting of a distant god. They were the daily, back-breaking human labour of men who had to figure out, by hand, how to stop the one thing that frightens humans most, the inevitable, physical fact of decay. Anubis wasn't just a god. He was a job title. And you were just the man who was brave enough and strong-willed enough to clock in. The Oracle of Ancient China. We're journeying back to the dawn of Chinese history, to the great Bronze Age Shang dynasty. But we're not heading to a battlefield or the court of a golden emperor. We're going somewhere. Stranger. We're going to the nerve centre of the entire kingdom, the place where every major decision was made. We're going to look at the dark, smoky, and brutally bureaucratic reality of the very first oracles, and the poor technicians who had to read the future in a puff of smoke. If you've stayed with me through this first story, I'm glad it's brought you a moment of peace. If you'd like to help this little community of ours keep growing, a simple like or subscribe is always appreciated, and I'd still love to know where you're listening from. It's been wonderful seeing voices from all over the world join in. All right, it's time to let the day recede. Find that comfortable spot. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow down. Take a long, slow breath. And as you let it out, just feel the tension and the noise of the day begin to dissolve. Good. The year is 1250 BC. The place is a great sprawling city on the banks of the Yellow River, a capital we now call Yinshu. You are Ji. You are a Pujen, a diviner, and you are awake. You are always awake before the sun. Not because you are a farmer, but because your work is constant. You live in a small, rammed earth hut in a district just outside the main palace complex. The air in your single room is cool, and it smells of millet porridge, river mud, and the ever-present faint tang of smoke. It's a dry, almost sweet smoke, the smell of burning wood, but also something else. A sharp, scorched smell, the smell of bone. You pull on a coarse hemp fibre tunic. Your wife is already moving, stoking the small clay stove in the corner. You are not a peasant. You are a state employee, a highly skilled salaried technician. You are, in modern terms, a member of the king's data processing department. Your job is not to toil in a field. Your job is to know things, or, more accurately, to provide the means for knowing. You are a holy man, a craftsman, and a bureaucrat, all rolled into one. Your breakfast is a bowl of hot millet, bland and filling. You eat it quickly. The king is an early riser, and he always has questions. You step out into the pre-dawn gloom. The city is a marvel of the Bronze Age. You walk on wide, packed earth avenues, past the towering, rammed earth walls of the palace enclosures. You see bronze workshops, the sky above them already glowing with the orange light of their fires. You hear the distant clang, clang, clank of hammers. The air is thick with the smell of charcoal and humanity. You are not heading to a gleaming white stone temple. You are heading to your office, the divination workshop. And it is a yard. A large, walled, dusty compound, smelling of dust, old animal hide, and fire. This is the brutal reality of your holy, mystical job. It is not serene. It is not clean. It is an industry. In the centre of the yard, you see the piles, the raw materials. On one side, a massive, teetering stack of ox scapulae. Shoulder blades, hundreds of them, pale and grey, picked clean, but not yet prepared. On the other side, an even more precious pile, turtle plastrons, the flat belly shells of turtles. These are not local. These, you know, are tribute. They come from far to the south, hauled hundreds of miles on the backs of men, a sacred gift for the king's exclusive use. Prophecy, it turns in, has a very long and complicated supply chain. You are not the only one here. A dozen other male diviners are already at work, squatting on their haunches, their tunics stained with dust. This is a factory of fate. You go to the sheds where the tools are kept. Bronze saws, bronze knives, bronze drills, and piles of sand. You are a craftsman, and your day begins with manual labour. Your first task is prep. You pick up a large, raw turtle plastron. It's thick, heavy, and still has bits of dried cartilage clinging to the edges. You take a heavy-backed bronze knife, and you begin scraping. Scrape. Scrape. This is not a mystical act. This is a dirty, physical job. You must scrape the shell perfectly clean. You must remove every last fragment of the natural world. Then, you take a small bronze saw. You meticulously saw the edges of the shell, making it a perfect, smooth-edged, rectangular-ish shape. It's hard work. The bronze blade is soft, and it dulls quickly. You have to stop often to sharpen it on a whetstone. Shing, shing, shing. The sound grates on your nerves. You work for over an hour just on this one shell. Sawing, scraping. Once the shell is shaped, it must be polished. This is the brutal reality of making something sacred. It takes grit, literally. You take a handful of wet sand and you begin to rub. Back and forth in a circular motion. The rough, porous surface of the bone begins to change. You rub until your shoulders ache. You rub until your fingers are raw. You do this for hours. Gradually, the shell transforms. It becomes pale, almost translucent, like a piece of pale green or yellow jade. It is smooth to the touch, like cool water. It is now a pure object, ready to receive a divine message. You hold it up. It glows in the morning light. It is a tool, a blank slate, and you have 5 more to do before midday. This is the part no one sees. The king does not see this. The court ministers do not see this. They see the magic. You see the calluses on your hands. You see the pile of bone dust at your feet. You are less a mystic, more a high-end Finnish carpenter for the ancestors. You see an older diviner working on an ox scapula. He is doing the same thing, sawing off the knobby, jointed end, scraping the flat blade of the bone. polishing, polishing, polishing. The yard is filled with the sound of scraping and sanding. It is the sound of bureaucracy being manufactured. But the prep work is not done. This is the most crucial, most secret, most technical part of your job. You take the perfectly polished, prepared shell. You turn it over. Now you take a bronze drill. Not a mystical, enchanted rod. A drill. A tool. You look at the back of the shell, and you begin to drill. You drill a series of small, precise hollows into the bone in a neat, orderly row. You drill a shallow oval-shaped pit first. Then, right next to it, you drill a smaller, deeper, circular pit. You do not drill all the way through. Never all the way through. You are thinning the bone from the inside in a very specific, controlled pattern. You do this again and again. You create a series of these paired hollows, a precise, repeating pattern across the entire back of the shell. This is your brute reality. The magic of the oracle is actually a feat of physics. You know, not through divine inspiration, but through centuries of trial and error, passed down from your master, that this is how you control the crack. You are creating fault lines. You are engineering the future. You are telling the ancestors where to speak. This is not a request. It is an invoice. You are a technician, preparing a medium for a data transfer. And you are, quite literally, pre-formatting the hard drive. This takes all morning. The sun is high. Your back aches. Your hands are covered in fine white bone dust. You are tired, but your tools are ready. You have a stack of 5 perfectly prepared plastrons and 3 prepared ox scapulae. They are smooth on the front, meticulously pitted on the back. You stack them, wrapping them in a piece of clean hemp cloth. You are ready for the meeting. You are, in essence, the IT guy, and the CEO is about to call you into the boardroom for his daily briefing. A man arrives, a court official, his silk robes a stark contrast to your dusty hempen tunic. He does not look at you, he looks past you. The king requires the diviner G, he says, his voice flat. This is it. You pick up your wrapped bundle of bones. You bow. You follow him. You leave the dusty, noisy industrial yard of the workshop, and you walk towards the palace. You pass through a high guarded gate in the massive rammed earth wall, and the world changes. Inside it is quiet, the ground is swept. You walk on mats, not dirt. You enter the great hall. It is a vast, dark wooden structure. The roof is held up by massive, painted timber columns. The air is thick with the smoke of incense and the smell of roasted meat from the kitchens. And it is full of bronze, everywhere. Great 3-legged ding vessels, cauldrons for cooking ritual food, sit in the corners, their green patinated surfaces covered in intricate patterns. Bronze wine holders, shaped like fantastic animals, line the walls. This is where the power is. The king, your king, sits on a raised wooden platform, surrounded by his ministers. And the king is a micromanager. He is the only one who can speak to the high ancestor, Dai. But he needs you to make the call. He needs your technology. You kneel on the mat, your forehead touching the floor. The king has questions, a minister announces. You wait. The king, a large man in a dark patterned robe, nods. He is pacing. He is, you can tell, worried. His brow is furrowed. The brutal reality of the Shang dynasty is that the king, despite his divine power, is the most stressed out man in the kingdom. He is held personally responsible for everything. If it doesn't rain, his fault. If a military campaign fails, his fault. If his wife has a bad toothache, his fault. His entire life is a high-stakes performance review, and the ancestors are a very, very tough boss. So, he asks questions, all day, about everything. You are his personal, non-stop divine search engine. A minister unrolls a bamboo slip and reads the first query. The king wishes to know, will it rain in the next 10 days? A simple question. A vital question. The millet fields need water. You unwrap your bundle. You select a prepared ox scapula. You are ready. You are the operator. A younger male assistant brings a bronze brazier, its coals glowing a dull, angry red. He brings the poker, a long bronze rod, its tip resting in the coals until it glows bright, white hot. You hold the prepared ox bone, the back of it facing you. You murmur the invocation, the ritual words, calling the ancestors to attend. The king wishes to know, will it rain? You take the white-hot bronze poker from the brazier. The heat washes over your face. You are sweating, not from the heat, but from the pressure. You press the glowing tip, firmly, into one of the pre-drilled oval hollows. The smell is immediate, a sharp, stinging foul smell of scorched bone. A small, oily, black puff of smoke rises from the hollow. And then it is a sharp, loud, sudden crack. The sound echoes in the great silent hall. It is the sound of the bone, thinned by your drill, finally splitting under the intense, focused heat. It is the sound of the ancestor's voice. You have made the ancestor speak. You pull the poker away. You turn the bone over, and there, on the smooth, polished, pale front, is the crack. It is a T-shape running from the small, circular hollow out across the bone. This is the answer. This is the brutal reality. It is not a voice. It is not a vision. It is a crack, a spiderweb of tiny branching dark lines spreading from a central point. And now, your real job begins. You must interpret it. The king is staring at you. The ministers are staring at you. You hold the bone up, your hands steady, though you can feel the sweat dripping down your back. You trace the main, vertical line with your finger. You look at the horizontal crossbar. You look at the tiny secondary cracks branching off from it. This is not a yes or no. This is data, and it is messy data. This is where your skill comes in. This is why you are the diviner. You are not just a craftsman. You are an analyst. You have to make a call. You look at the way the crack branches upwards. You note that the horizontal line is long and unbroken. You feel the feeling, the instinct born of 1,000 previous cracks. The ancestor is favourable, you announce, your voice hoarse. It will rain. The rain will be sufficient. The king nods slowly. He is satisfied. A minister makes a note on a bamboo slip. You can breathe. You've gotten the first one right. But the day is not over. The king is just warming up. Second question, the minister says. The king's tooth aches. He wishes to know which ancestor is cursing his tooth. You sigh inwardly. This is the brutal reality of divine power. You're not just dealing with matters of state. You are also the royal dentist's referral service. You select another bone. You repeat the process. The hot poker. The PU exclamation mark. The crack. You study this new crack. It's different. It's angled. It's inauspicious. You announce, it is the ancestor grandmother. She requires an offering. Perhaps 3 goats. The king nods. He seems relieved. He has an action plan for his toothache. This is the core of your job. You are not predicting the future. You are diagnosing the present. You are finding the hidden ancestral cause for the random, painful, scary events of the world. You are the man who tells the king why things are bad. and what ritual payment he needs to make it stop. The questions continue. They come thick and fast. Will the millet harvest be abundant? Crack. Will the Queen's delivery be fortunate? Will the new royal relative be a male? Crack. Auspicious. Inauspicious. The ancestor requires 5 cattle. And then, the big one. The king himself speaks, his voice low. We plan a campaign against the Tufang, the barbarians to the west. I wish to know, will I, the king, lead the army, or shall the queen, Ferhao, lead? The hall is silent. This is a major query. Fu Hao, the king's wife, is a general. She is standing right there, her face impassive. You select your finest, largest, most perfect turtle plastron, the one you spent all morning polishing. This is a premium question. It requires a premium shell. You repeat the invocation. You take the hot poker. You press it to the first hollow. Crack, huh? You press it to a second. Crack on. You create a series of cracks, a whole conversation. You study the plastron. It is a web of lines. It is complex. You are sweating freely now. This is not a yes or no. This is a negotiation. You trace the lines. You see a strong, favourable line for the Queen. You see a weaker, more ambiguous line for the King. You must speak. The ancestors, they are favourable to the campaign, you say, your voice careful. They favour the Queen Fu Hao. Her leadership will be auspicious. The king should remain. The king looks at his wife. He nods. It is decided. You have just helped plan a military campaign. You have just confirmed the authority of a female general. You did it, with a hot poker and a turtle shell. And now, the most important bureaucratic step, the records. You take a fine, sharp bronze point, a carving tool, and you begin to etch into the shell. This is the part of your job that will last for millennia. You do not write, you carve. Next to the crack that answered the question about the rain, you carve a series of small, precise, angular grooves. You are not a writer. You are a map maker. You are carving a map of the question and the answer. You are making a note for the official record. You carve a set of grooves for the date. You carve a set of grooves for the question. You carve your own name, G, with a few practiced angular cuts. And you carve the answer. Auspicious. You are creating a permanent physical database. You do this for every single crack you made today. The shell is now not just a tool. It is a document. It is a piece of state paperwork. It is an invoice, a memo, and a legal precedent, all carved into bone. Your work at the palace is done. The king is satisfied. His questions, for now, are answered. You bow, forehead to the floor. You back out of the hall, your bundle of carved shells and bones now in the hands of a royal scribe. And you walk back to your workshop. The sun is setting. The air is cooling. The sounds of the bronze smiths are dying down. You are exhausted. Not just from the scraping and polishing, but from the pressure. The stress of being the middleman between the most powerful man in the world and his angry, dead relatives. It's a tough job. You get back to the dusty yard, and what do? You sit. You pick up a new, raw ox scapula. You take your bronze knife, and you begin to scrape. 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 Because the king will have more questions tomorrow. We look back at these oracle bones and we see mystery. We see the birth of writing. We see a strange alien magic. But the brutal reality is that this was a job. It was a state-run, bureaucratic, industrial process of risk management. It was the Shang dynasty's version of a board meeting, a weather forecast, and a medical diagnostic, all rolled into one. These diviners were not wild-eyed mystics. They were technicians. They were craftsmen. They were the men who had to polish the shell, drill the hole, apply the heat, and then make the call. They weren't just predicting the future. They were manufacturing it, one crack at a time. The tomb painters of Thebes. We're journeying back to ancient Egypt, but we're steering clear of the golden pharaohs and the towering pyramids. We're going somewhere most people never think about, a place of intense, grinding, and almost comically bureaucratic labour. We're heading to the workshop of eternity, the place where the afterlife was literally manufactured, to look at the brutal, dusty, and incredibly skilled existence of the tomb painters of Thebes. If these slow journeys into the grit of the past help you find a moment of peace in our modern noisy world, a simple like or subscribe is always appreciated. It's a quiet way to help our community grow. The year is roughly 1250 BC. The place is the west bank of Thebes, the domain of the dead. You are Kenaman, a servant in the place of truth, and your day is about to begin. Your world is not the sprawling, vibrant city of Thebes across the river. Your world is a village, a purpose-built, high-walled compound set in a desolate, sun-scorched bowl in the desert cliffs. Its official name is Set Ma'at, the place of truth. It is, in essence, a top-secret government facility, and you and your colleagues are its highly skilled and highly isolated occupants. This isn't a charming rural village. It's a state-controlled dormitory. You don't live here by choice. You live here because you are a member of the Pardemi, the gang, the official crew of royal tomb builders. You are a state asset, and your craft is a state secret. The village is cramped. Perhaps 70 small, mud brick houses are packed tightly together, fronting onto narrow, unpaved alleys. The walls surrounding you aren't for decoration. They are to keep you in, and the rest of the world out. The only way in or out is through a single, heavily guarded gate. Above you, on all sides, the Theban cliffs loom, a sheer, orange-white wall of limestone that traps the heat and reflects the blinding glare of the sun. The air smells of dust, acacia wood smoke from the baking ovens, dried fish, and the faint, ever-present scent of the donkeys that serve as the village's only link to the outside world. This is your home. It's not grand, it's not picturesque. It is a functional, dusty, and intensely scrutinized place of work. Your life is dedicated to one single, monumental task: preparing the Pharaoh's house of eternity for his journey into the afterlife. For you, however, it's just the job. You swing your legs off your low, wooden-framed bed. The floor is packed earth, cool against your bare feet. Your house is a 4-room model, a standard-issue design. You move through the front room, past the main column holding up the roof, into the small, open-air kitchen at the back. Your wife, Merit, is already awake, grinding grain against a stone slab. The sound is a rhythmic, gritty shush, shush, shush. That is the alarm clock of the entire village. Your breakfast is predictable. A thick, coarse loaf of tar, the staple barley bread, dense and heavy. You dip it into a small bowl of beer, not the celebratory drink, but a thick, soupy, nutritious brew that is more like liquid bread. Perhaps there is an onion, sharp and pungent, to go with it. This is fuel, not cuisine. It's the calories you need to make the long walk and face the darkness. You pull on a simple knee-length linen kilt, bleached white by the sun. You splash your face with water from a clay jar. The water itself, a precious, rationed commodity, hauled up from the distant river by donkey. You are not a farmer covered in the rich mud of the Nile. You are a specialist. Your hands, though calloused, are steady. Your eyes are sharp. You are a sesh-ked, an outline draftsman, one of the most skilled men in the entire village. Your job is to lay down the perfect, unwavering lines that will guide the painters. You are the architect of the divine. But right now, you're just a man trying to get the sleep from his eyes before the overseer shouts. You join the stream of other men, male plasterers, male sculptors, male painters, male stonecutters, heading for the main gate. The air is still, the sun not yet high enough to become a threat. At the gate, the mood is one of routine. You see the scribes, the project managers of this whole operation, standing with their wooden pallets and reed brushes. A male overseer, the chief of the gang, calls out names from a list. You are present. Your colleague Bach is present. Everyone is accounted for. This is a muster. A daily roll call. Lateness is not just frowned upon. It is a noted offence against the state, recorded in ink on a shard of pottery, an ostracon. It's the ancient Egyptian equivalent of a sternly worded email from human resources. Once the scribes are satisfied, the gang moves out, and now begins the commute. You do not work in the village. You work in the Taseket Ma'at, the great field, the place we call the Valley of the Kings, and it is not nearby. You and the other men begin the long, steep climb up a well-worn path that leads from your village, up and over the mountain ridge that separates you from the valley. It is a grueling 30-minute ascent, up stone-cut stairs and crumbling scree. Your calf muscles burn. The sun is already beginning to beat down, and sweat traces lines in the limestone dust on your skin. Below you, your walled village shrinks to a small mud brick model. You reach the summit, a high saddle in the rock, and pause. The view is vast, the entire Theban necropolis. But you have no time for sightseeing. The overseer urges you on. The descent into the valley is just as steep, a winding path down into the royal Wadi. You arrive at the floor of the valley. It is not a serene, silent place. It is a massive, state-funded construction site. The valley floor is dotted with the dark, rectangular doorways of other tombs, some finished, some still being worked. Piles of white limestone chips, the debris from excavation, glitter in the morning sun. You hear the distant, muffled tink, tink, tink of chisels. You smell dust. You see a handful of Medjay, the desert police who guard this sacred, secret place, leaning on their staffs. They nod as your gang walks past. Your destination is a new pit, a fresh hole in the cliff face, the current resting place of Pharaoh. Its entrance is a simple, downward-sloping set of stairs, framed by rough-dressed stone. A wooden shelter is propped up outside, where a scribe sits at a small table checking off deliveries of materials. You and your crew, your team of plasterers, painters and fellow draftsmen, gather at the entrance. The overseer gives a few brief instructions. The plasterers will be working in the antechamber, preparing a new wall. Your team, you are heading deeper into the long descending corridor. You step out of the blinding hot sunlight and into the mouth of the tomb. The change is immediate. The air becomes cool, almost cold, and it is still, and dark, utterly, profoundly dark. The smell changes. The clean, dry sense of the desert is gone, replaced by the smell of damp, cut rock, limestone dust, and something else. The faint, sulphurous, oily scent of the lamps. This is your office. A long, sloping tunnel, cut deep into the bedrock, silent as a tomb. The real work begins. A younger, less skilled male worker, an apprentice, is tasked with the lamps. This is not the divine eternal light of the gods. This is a crude, functional, and deeply unpleasant technology. The lamps are simple, shallow pottery bowls filled with sesame oil. A twisted piece of flax serves as a wick. The apprentice places them in niches cut into the walls or on tall wooden stands. He lights them. The flame sputters, greasy and yellow, casting a small, flickering pool of light. And it smokes. The tomb immediately begins to fill with a thin, acrid haze. The soot clings to the ceiling, which is already blackened from months of previous work. This is the light you have to work by. It is dim, it is unreliable, and it is slowly coating your lungs in a layer of fine black grit. You move down the corridor, your sandals scraping on the stone floor. You pass the plasterers, their hands and arms white with gypsum. They are smoothing a new layer of plaster over a rough-cut wall, the slap and scrape of their wooden floats echoing in the narrow space. You reach your assigned section. A rickety wooden scaffold has been set up against the left-hand wall. This wall is your canvas. It is already smooth, dried, and waiting. You are the outline draftsman. Your job is precision. You take out your tools, a piece of red ochre, a small pot of black carbon-based ink, and your brushes, simple reeds, their ends chewed and split to create fine bristles. You also have your most important tool, a long piece of string caked in red ochre dust. You and another male draftsman pull the string taut against the white plaster wall. You snap it. Twack! It leaves a perfect horizontal red line. You do this again and again and again, creating a precise 18 square high grid across the entire wall. This is the bedrock of all Egyptian art. There is no artistic license here. There is no inspiration. There is the grid. The grid dictates the proportions of every single figure you will draw, from the smallest servant to the tallest green-skinned god. You are not an artist in our modern sense. You are a highly trained technician, a copier of sacred schematics. Your creativity is expressed only in the perfection and confidence of your line. The scribe of the tomb, your direct manager, arrives. He's not here to admire your work. He's here to approve the layout. He unrolls a papyrus scroll, a pattern book filled with the approved official figures for this section of the underworld. He points. Here, the king, presenting an offering to the tall male figure with the green skin. Here, the 3 protector goddesses. Make sure the crowns are correct. You nod. You know the forms by heart. You have drawn them 1,000 times. But you nod. The bureaucracy of the afterlife is exacting. The gods, it seems, are sticklers for proper proportion. You dip your reed brush into the pot of red ochre and, with a steady hand, you begin your first draft, sketching the figures onto the grid. You work for hours. The only sound is the faint scratch of your brush, the distant tink of the chisels, and the shuffling of the lampboy. The air grows thick and heavy. Your eyes sting from the smoke. You have to stop every so often to wipe the soot from your nostrils. You are crouched on a narrow, wobbling plank of wood, your face inches from the wall. Your back aches, your neck is stiff. You are painting a glorious eternal journey for your divine king. But you are mostly thinking about the grit in your eye and the cramp in your leg. This is the brawl reality of tomb painting. It is not serene. It is dark, cramped, suffocating, and deeply uncomfortable. It is, in short, a job. The scribe returns. He inspects your red ochre draft. He's a fussy man, a man who lives by the rule book. He points with his reed. This shoulder is too wide. It crosses the grid line. He is correct. You will have to fix it when you do the final black ink outline. You feel a flash of irritation, but you just nod. He is the boss. He makes a note on a shard of pottery. Kenneman, draftsman. Section 4. Correction required on shoulder of royal figure. This will go into your permanent record. You sigh. The afterlife, it turns out, is run by a middle manager. After your red draft is approved, you go over it all again, this time with the fine black ink brush. This is the final permanent line. It must be perfect. Your hand does not shake. The line flows, smooth and confident. Behind you, the painters are waiting. They are the next step in the assembly line. They are mixing their colours in pottery bowls. Bright mineral pigments, red and yellow from ochre, blue from ground copper silicate, green from malachite, white from gypsum, black from carbon. These are not just paints. They are toxic. The yellow, orpiment, is literally arsenic. The painters grind it, mix it with water and gum arabic, and get it all over their hands. You're glad you're a draftsman. Your job just ruins your lungs. Theirs ruins everything else. The painters move in. Their job is, quite literally, to colour inside your lines. It is a meticulous, flat application of colour. There is no shading, no perspective. It is a two-dimensional symbolic representation. They work by the same smoky, flickering lamplight. It's a miracle the colours are so even. They must look garish, almost cartoonish, in the dim yellow light. But they know, you all know, that these colours are not meant for you. They are not meant for human eyes at all. They are meant to be seen by the gods in the darkness for eternity. Still, you can't help but feel a small professional pride as the scene comes to life. The bright blue of a god's wig, the crisp white of the king's kilt, all against the dark, smoky backdrop of your workplace. Midday. A signal is given. The tools are set down. It's time for the midday meal. You don't leave the tomb. That would mean the long climb back to the village. No, the company provides. You file out into the blinding, shocking sunlight at the tomb's entrance. The heat hits you like a physical blow after the chill of the underground. You sit in the sliver of shade provided by the wooden shelter. A worker comes around with baskets. Your lunch, more bread, a handful of dates, and, most importantly, a clay jar of water, tasting faintly of the donkey skin bag it was carried in. You sit with Bak and the other men, eating the dry bread, blinking in the bright light, your faces and arms streaked with soot and plaster dust. You talk, but you don't talk about art, or the gods, or the glorious eternity you are building. You talk about pay, because you are not paid in money. Money, as we know it, doesn't really exist. You are paid in rations. You are a salaried employee, and your salary is food. Once a month, the state delivers. A massive shipment of grain, barley for your beer, emmer wheat for your bread. This is the bulk of your pay. Then come the supplements. Deliveries of dried fish from the Nile, vegetables, onions, garlic, leeks. From the temple estates, jars of beer, pottery and linen. Your entire life, your family's survival, depends on this supply chain. You are, arguably, the best paid labourer in all of Egypt. You live a middle-class life. But the system is fragile. It relies on a vast, complex bureaucracy of scribes, granaries, viziers, and transport ships. And sometimes it fails. Bak is grumbling. The last fish delivery was small, and the fish were questionable. The grain shipment for this month, he's heard, is late. The scribes at the gate were whispering. Apparently, there's a new war in the north, and the army is diverting supplies. Or perhaps the vizier in Thebes is just corrupt, skimming from your paycheck to fund his own building projects. The humour is dark. We are building a house for the God King, Back mutters, and we are doing it on an empty stomach. This is the true brutal reality of your existence. It's not the dark, or the dust, or the back-breaking work. It's the simple, mundane, and terrifying precarity of the paycheck. You are entirely dependent on the state for your next meal. You are a specialized, elite craftsman, but you cannot grow your own food. You cannot hunt. You are trapped in your walled village, a cog in a great state-run machine. And when that machine sputters, you starve. This isn't a hypothetical fear. You've heard the stories from the older men, the lean times, the days when the grain barges just didn't show up. And now that day has come. A week passes. The grain shipment is officially disastrously late. The village granary is empty. The mood in the village has turned from grumbling to quiet panic, and now to anger. You wake up and your breakfast is nothing. A scrape of old flour mixed with water. The men gather at the gate, but not for the muster. They are agitated, their voices loud. The overseer tries to calm them. The scribe promises a shipment is imminent. It's the ancient Egyptian version of "your check is in the mail." You and the other men look at each other, and a silent collective decision is made. You, Kenneman, set down your reed brushes. Buck, the plasterer, drops his wooden float. The stonecutters lay down their chisels. And you walk out. You and the entire gang, perhaps 60 men, file past the stunned guards at the village gate. But you do not turn left, towards the Valley of the Kings. You turn right. You begin the long, hot, dusty walk to Thebes. You march past the mortuary temples of the long-dead kings. You are hungry, and you are angry. You don't stop until you reach the Ramesseum, the massive mortuary temple of the current pharaoh's father. This is one of the administrative centres, one of the great granaries. You sit down, right in the main courtyard. You and 60 other soot-covered, hungry and highly skilled state employees. You refuse to move. You refuse to work. You shout, "We are hungry. We have no bread." Scribes run out, flapping their hands, telling you to be quiet, to return to your village. You refuse. This is, in all of human history, the first recorded labour strike. You haven't just walked off the job. You've invented the picket line. The temple bureaucrats are in a full-blown panic. This is unprecedented. These men are the pharaoh's personal craftsmen. They cannot be ignored. They cannot be easily replaced. A frantic search is made. A local official finds a stash of grain, likely meant for the temple priests, and offers it to you as a past due payment. It's not the full amount, but it is something. You and the men accept it for now. You march back to your village, carrying the sacks of grain. You have won. You have learned a new, powerful form of magic. You have learned that the system needs you, perhaps even more than you need it. You will do this again. The records on the pottery shards will tell of many such down tools in the years to come. You are back in the tomb. The work resumes. The plasterers plaster. You draw your perfect lines. The painters fill them in. But something is different. The mood is changed. There is a weary solidarity. You are still a servant of the pharaoh, but you are also a member of a union, bound by shared skill and shared hunger. The work goes on, but the illusion of its divine, unquestionable importance has been broken. It's a job, and you demand to be paid. The workday finally ends. The signal is given. The lamps are extinguished, plunging the corridor into immediate, thick darkness. You feel your way out, one hand on the wall, following the sounds of the men in front of you. You emerge, blinking, into the late afternoon sun. The heat is less fierce. the light a deep, warm gold. You are caked in dust, soot, and dried sweat. Your body aches. You join the silent column of men for the long commute back over the mountain. The climb is just as hard, but the mood is lighter. You are going home. You descend the path to your village, the walls glowing orange in the sunset. Life in the village is not just work. In the evenings, the alleys are filled with sound. Men sit outside their houses, mending tools or weaving baskets. Women are gathered around the communal ovens, baking the next day's bread. Their voices a steady stream of gossip. You are an isolated community, and you are all in each other's business. You know who is quarrelling with his neighbour, who received a poor quality linen ration, and who is borrowing state-owned tools for his own projects. Because here is the other great secret of the place of truth. You are surrounded by the finest craftsmen in Egypt, and you all know you will need tombs too. You spend your days working on the pharaoh's mega mansion of eternity. You spend your evenings working on your own. Just outside the village walls, the slopes are honeycombed with the small, modest tombs of the artisans. And you all trade. You, Kenneman, will draft the perfect lines for the tomb of Bak, the plasterer. In exchange, he will plaster the walls of your small, one-room tomb. A sculptor will carve a small wooden statue for you. A painter will colour it. You use your state-honed skills for your own private side hustles. You even make funerary equipment for other non-royal officials in Thebes, a trade that is technically not allowed, but the scribes look the other way. You sit in your own small rock-cut chapel. It is dark. You have one lamp. But here, you are the boss. You are not following the royal grid. You paint a scene of yourself and Merit, your wife, sitting at a table piled high with offerings, bread, beer, oxen, ducks. You paint yourself as you wish to be, a wealthy lord, not a government worker. Here, your lines are a little freer, the colours a little bolder. This is your eternity, not Pharaoh's. It is a small act of rebellion, a way of reclaiming the skill that dominates your waking life. Your official work in the valley will be seen by no one. It will be sealed in the dark. This small personal work, this is the work that matters to you. You stand at the summit of the Theban mountain, pausing on your walk home. The sun is a fiery red ball sinking behind the western cliffs. The Nile far below is a dark ribbon. The city of Thebes is alive with lights. Your village, down in its bowl, is quiet. You are tired. Your bones ache. Your lungs feel heavy. You've spent another day in the dark, painting scenes of a paradise you will never see, for a king you have never met. You are an anonymous cog in a vast divine machine. We look back at this art and we see magic. We see gods and kings and a serene golden eternity. But the men who made it, they saw something very different. They saw a job. They saw dark, smoky, cramped conditions. They saw toxic materials and rickety scaffolding. They saw a bureaucratic boss, a scribe with a checklist, telling them to fix the shoulder on a god. They worried about their paycheck. They got hungry. They argued with their managers. They went on strike for more bread and better fish. The brutal reality of the tomb painters is not one of divine inspiration. It is a story of profound, grinding human labour. It is the story of anonymous, brilliant craftsmen fueled by garlic and beer who, in their daily, dusty, back-breaking toil, accidentally built eternity. The daily life of a Japanese rice farmer. Hey guys, glad you could make it. Tonight, we're journeying to feudal Japan, but we're not visiting the immaculate castles. or the silent mossy Zen gardens, or the lamplit streets of the pleasure districts. We're going to the place that paid for all of it. We're heading into the mud, to the source of all life, wealth and misery in the empire, to look at the brutal, back-breaking and relentlessly wet existence of the Japanese rice farmer. If these slow dives into the realities of the past help you find a bit of quiet in your own world, a simple like or subscribe is always, always appreciated. It's a small click, but it truly helps this community grow. And as our little community gathers, it's always great to see where everyone is tuning in from. The modern world connects us in ways these farmers never could have imagined. So feel free to share what part of the world you're listening from tonight. Alright, it's time to let the day go. Find that spot where you can settle in. Let your body feel heavy, supported. Take a slow, deep breath in and just let it all out. Feel the tension of the day just dissolve. Good. The year is 1750. The place is a small, nameless village in the shadow of a mountain, somewhere in central Japan. You are Kensuke, and you are awake. You are always awake before the sun. There is no gentle alarm, no rooster crowing. The only alarm is the biting, damp cold that seeps up from the packed earth floor of your hut. Your house, your minka, is not a charming, wood-planked home. It is a one-room structure of mud, straw, and rough-hewn timber. The roof is thick thatch, and the air inside is heavy with the smell of old wood smoke and the faint, sharp tang of pickled radish. You can see your breath. In the centre of the room is the irori, the sunken hearth, filled with grey ash and a few glowing embers. Your wife, Hana, is already there, kneeling on the raised wooden floor, blowing the embers back to life. She adds a few precious sticks of firewood, gathered from the mountain yesterday. There is no chimney. The smoke simply rises, filling the rafters, coating everything, your lungs included, with a thin, greasy layer of soot. This is supposedly good for preserving the thatch from insects. You are less sure what it is doing for your health. You pull on your clothes. They are not soft cotton kimonos. Cotton is a cash crop, a luxury. Your clothes are made of rough spun hemp, or perhaps ramie fibre. The cloth is stiff, patched, and dyed a dull, functional indigo. It is scratchy against your skin. You slide your feet into a pair of waraji, simple straw sandals you wove yourself last winter. They will be caked in mud by noon, and will likely fall apart by the end of the week. You are in a constant state of manufacturing your own footwear. Hana ladles your breakfast into a rough wooden bowl. You look inside, and it is not rice. White rice, the food that you will dedicate your entire existence to growing, is not for you. That is tax. That is food for samurai, for merchants, for the lord in his castle. Your breakfast is high, barnyard millet, or perhaps awa, foxtail millet, boiled in water until it becomes a thick grey watery gruel. This is zosui. Alongside it is a single pungent yellow slice of takuan, a pickled daikon radish. This is it. This is the fuel for 12 hours of brutal physical labour. You eat it quickly, silently. The taste is bland, salty, and identical to the meal you had last night and the meal you will have tomorrow. You are a farmer. In the grand, four-tiered social structure of the Edo period, the Shi no Kosho, you are second. Below the samurai, but above the artisans and the merchants. You are, in theory, the foundation of the entire nation. The noble producer. This is a very poetic way of saying you are the designated beast of burden for the entire society. You get all of the theoretical respect and none of the actual benefits. You are the structural support beam in the basement, holding everything up, covered in damp, and never ever seen. You and Hana step out of the hut into the pre-dawn gloom. The air is cold, sharp, smelling of mist and wood smoke. Your village, your Mura, is a tight, cramped cluster of 27 thatched roof huts, huddled together as if for warmth. The streets are just narrow, muddy paths. The village is not a collection of individuals. It is a single suffocating organism. You are part of a Goningumi, a 5-family group. This is your neighbourhood watch, your tax bracket, and your prison, all rolled into one. You see your neighbour, Jiro, emerging from his own hut. You nod. You are responsible for Jiro. Jiro is responsible for you. If Jiro fails to pay his taxes, your group may have to make up the difference. If Jiro's fields are not weeded, you will be questioned. If you are caught breaking one of the hundreds of local edicts, farmers must not wear silk. Farmers must not build houses that are too large. Farmers must not eat rice. Your entire Goningumi could be punished. It is a system of perfect cellular control. It is not community. It is mandatory mutual surveillance. You live your life on a stage, and your neighbours are your unwilling audience and your judges. Walking the central path is the Nanushi, the village headman. He is a farmer like you, but he is different. He is a wealthy farmer, an owner farmer, Honbyakusho. His house is larger. He probably does eat rice. He is the liaison, the man who bows to the samurai, and the man who yells at you. He is your boss, your foreman, your union rep, and your local government, all in one. He carries a thick wooden staff, and his eyes miss nothing. He notes that you are walking to the field. He notes that Jiro is walking to the field. He makes a mental mark. All is as it should be. You keep your head down. You are a tenant farmer, a kosaku. You own nothing. Not the land, not the house, not even, really, the millet in your bowl. You are just the labour. You arrive at the field, your field. It is a small rectangular plot of land on a terraced hillside, a patch of cracked dry clay surrounded by low earthen walls called A's. This is your assignment. It belongs to a Hatamoto, a high-ranking samurai who lives in a distant city, a man you have never seen and will never see. And it is spring, the time of beginnings, which means it is the time of the most back-breaking work imaginable. First, you must repair the A's, the small levees. You walk the perimeter, your hands grabbing clumps of wet, heavy clay from a ditch, and you slap them into the cracks, pounding and smoothing the wall. If the A's leaks, your water and your entire crop will drain away. Once the walls are sound, you must break the earth. You look at the field next to yours. Your wealthy neighbour has an ox. The ox, pulling a wooden plough, is a piece of high technology. It's the 18th century equivalent of a new tractor. You do not have an ox. You have a kuwa, a heavy, wooden-handled, three-pronged hoe. You take your stance. You raise the kuwa high over your head, your shoulders straining, and you slam it into the hard-baked dry clay. The tines sink in a few inches. You pull back, your thighs burning, turning over a single heavy clump of dirt. You do it again, and again. You and Hana work in rhythm. This is not tilling. This is a full-body assault on the earth. You do this for days. Your hands are raw, covered in blisters that break, bleed, and turn into thick, weeping calluses. Your back is a single solid column of fire. You are not thinking of the harvest. You are not thinking of the gods, the kami of the field. You are thinking of the next clump of dirt. Just one more clump. When the entire field is finally broken into rough clods, the real work begins. You slide open the small wooden sluice gate at the top of your terrace. A stream of cold, clear mountain water gushes in. It floods your field, turning the broken dirt into a knee-deep, freezing cold soup of mud. The field is now flooded, but it is not ready. The clods are still too big. You must now churn it. You attach a simple wooden-toothed harrow to a yoke, but you have no ox. So you put the yoke across your own shoulders. You, Kensky, are the beast of burden. You lean forward, your entire body straining, and you pull. Your feet sink deep into the mud, the suction trying to steal your sandals. You drag the harrow through the thick, resisting slurry, back and forth, back and forth. You are literally churning your field by hand, until the mud is a perfectly smooth, thick, glutinous paste. Now it is early summer. The mud is ready. The seedlings are ready. In a separate, tiny, meticulously tended nursery bed, the rice seedlings have been growing, a patch of impossibly bright green hair. It is time for planting. The taillis. This is not a job you do alone. The entire village is mobilized. Everyone, men, women, any older person who can still bend, is called to the fields. You all stand in a long line, side by side, in the knee-deep mud of a paddy. The water is cold. You are bent at the waist, your back horizontal to the ground. This will be your posture for the next week. In one hand, you hold a small cluster of the delicate green seedlings. With your other hand, you take 3, just 3, and you push your fingers deep, deep into the thick grey mud. The mud sucks at your hand as you pull it out. You slide your hand back a few inches, take 3 more seedlings. You push them in. You are planting in a perfect straight line. You move backward, slowly, step by step. Planting, sliding, planting, all day. The sun climbs, beating on your wide straw casa hut. The sun's reflection glares up from the water, into your eyes. Your back is not just aching, it is screaming. Your thighs are trembling from the strain of standing in the resisting mud. This is not a Zen meditation. This is a form of slow, methodical torture. And the water is alive. Not with benevolent kami, with things that bite. Water spiders scuttle across the surface. Frogs splash. And there are the leeches. You feel a small, sharp, tickling bite on your calf, below the line of your rolled-up hemp trousers. You don't even flinch. You pause your planting, reach down into the murky water, your fingers finding the slick, rubbery body of the leech. You pull it off, toss it aside, and immediately go back to your rhythm. Planting, sliding, planting. You will be covered in these small circular welts by the end of the day. You will do this until the entire field is a perfect grid of tiny green shoots. The planting is done. Surely now you can rest? You laugh at the thought. Number. The rice is planted, which means the weeds are too. A paddy is a perfect incubator for 1,000 different kinds of aquatic weeds, all of which want to choke your precious fragile rice. So, for the next 3 months, your primary job is weeding by hand. You are back in the paddy, bent over. The sun is high and hot. It is the deep, humid, oppressive heat of a Japanese summer. The air is thick, and the sound of cicadas is a deafening, high-pitched drill. You wade, step by slow step, through the rows of growing rice. Your eyes are fixed on the water. Your hands are in the mud. You feel for the weeds, pulling them up, roots and all, and tossing them onto the A's. It is meticulous. It is endless. And the smell is staggering. Because the rice is hungry. It needs fertilizer. And you do not have bags of chemical pellets. You have shimago, night soil. Human and animal waste collected from every hut in the village, stored in large clay vats to ferment into a truly potent slurry. This slurry is then ladled by hand into the paddy water. You are, therefore, spending your entire summer bent over, ankle deep in a warm, fragrant soup of your own village's fermented waste. The smell clings to your skin, to your clothes, to your hair, but it is what makes the rice grow. It is the cycle of life, a smelly, disgusting, but necessary cycle. And then there are the insects, the mosquitoes, clouds of them, rising from the stagnant water, drawn to the heat and salt of your skin. You are a walking buffet. Your arms, your neck, your face, all are covered in red, itching welts. You slap at your neck, killing one, and continue weeding. And this is just the rice. The rice is your job, your tax. It is not your food. Your food is growing on a tiny dry land plot next to your hut. This is Hana's domain. Here, she cultivates the millet, the barley, the soybeans, the daikon radishes, and the cucumbers that will actually keep you alive through the winter. This, too, must be weeded, watered, and protected. And then there is the mountain, the yama. This is the common land, the village supermarket. You must make trips up the steep paths, a wicker basket on your back. You are gathering firewood. This is a constant, endless task. Without wood, your hearth goes cold, your millet gruel stays raw. You gather wild, edible plants, sansai, fiddlehead ferns in the spring, mushrooms in the autumn. You might, very quietly, check a small snare you set, hoping for a rabbit or a bird, even though hunting is likely forbidden by your lord. You are in a constant low-level search for calories. And then there is the straw, wara. After the harvest, the rice straw is just as valuable as the grain. Nothing is wasted. You do not have evenings off. You have weaving time. You sit by the dim, smoky irori, your cracked hands twisting the dry, rough straw. You twist it into rope. You weave it into sandals, the waraji you wear out every week. You weave it into thick, bristly raincoats, called mino. You weave it into tatami mats. Your life is a closed, suffocating loop. You grow the rice. You use the rice's waste to make the tools, to grow more rice. Autumn. The air is crisp. The cicadas are gone. And the paddies. The paddies are a sea of gold. The rice plants are heavy, their heads bowed. It is a stirring sight. It is the sight of more work. The paddies are drained. The fields are now just thick, cracked mud again. The entire village is mobilized. It is time for inekari, the reaping. You are back in the field, bent over. Of course you are. You take your kama, a small curved bladed sickle. You grab a clump of rice stalks in one hand. You slice through the base with the sickle. You lay the bundle down. You grab another. You slice. It is the same back-breaking posture as planting, the same repetitive motion. All day, slicing, gathering, laying down. The air fills with the dry, sweet, dusty smell of cut grain. The bundles are gathered and tied, then hung upside down over wooden racks called haza, set up in the fields to dry in the sun. For a week, the village is surrounded by these golden, bristling walls of rice. But you are not done. Oh no. Once dry, the bundles are taken down and you must thresh them. You take a bundle and you beat it against a sembakogi, a large comb-like tool, its wooden teeth pulling the grains from the stalk. You pull and beat the stalks, the grains flying, dust fills the air. And still you are not done. The grains are now in a pile, but they are covered in a hard, inedible husk. You must husk them. You pour the grains into an yusu, a massive wooden mortar, like a giant's bowl. You take a kine, a long-handled wooden mallet, so heavy you can barely lift it. You raise it. You bring it down into the mortar. You lift. You bring it down. You pound the rice, the impact shattering the husks. This is not a job for one person. you and Hana work together in a rhythm, pounding and turning for hours until your shoulders are jelly. Finally, you have a pile of a product. Not white rice, but brown rice, the genmai. It is done. The harvest is complete. You have, through a full year of pain, created a mountain of food. You stand by the pile of threshed, husked grain, your product, your wealth, the sum total of your life's work for the year. And then you hear them. They are not coming with drums or fanfare. They come with the quiet, terrifying sound of authority. The daikon, the local samurai magistrate, the Lord's representative. He is not in armour. He's in crisp, dark silk robes. He walks as if the mud and chaff on the ground are a personal insult to him. With him are his assistants, male scribes, with paper scrolls, ink brushes, and the masu, the official measuring box. The head man, your nanushi, is bowing. He is bowing so low his head is almost on his knees. He is sweating. He is terrified. The measurement begins. Your entire harvest, every single grain, is scooped into the measuring box, levelled off and counted. The scribe makes marks on his scroll. The daikon watches, his face a mask of perfect cold neutrality. He does not look at you. You do not exist. You are a resource, like the field, or the water. The counting finishes. The daikon consults his records. He announces the nengu, the annual rice tax. This year the rate is goko gomin. 5 parts for the Lord, 5 parts for the people. This is generous. Some years it is 60%. Some years 70%. You watch silently as your pile of grain is divided. You watch as half of your entire year, half of your broken back, half of the leeches, half of the nights spent weaving straw, is shoveled into thick straw bags, marked with the crest of your unseen lord, and loaded onto a cart. This is the good rice, the nutritious brown rice. It will be taken to the Lord's castle, where it will be polished bone white, stripping it of its nutrients, to be eaten by samurai who have not done a day of physical labour in their lives. You are, in fact, forbidden by law from eating it. The penalty is severe. You are left with your half. From this, you must save enough seed for next year's planting. You must pay for the new handle for your kuwa. You must survive. What you are really left with is the millet, the barley, the daikon. You have just produced a mountain of the world's finest food, and you will go to bed, hungry. Winter, the slack season. This is the greatest, most bitter joke of all. The fields are frozen stiff. The mountains are deep in snow. You are not working. You are working. You are inside your minka. It is dark. It is so cold. The wind whistles through the thin wooden walls. The only heat comes from the aurori, the hearth, which you huddle around, your eyes stinging from the constant choking smoke. What do? You work. You take the massive piles of rice straw, the wara, and you begin the real manufacturing. Your cracked, stiff fingers twist the straw, rolling it against your thigh, making rope. Endless lengths of rope. You sit on the floor and weave waraji sandals, one after another, stockpiling them for the year to come. You weave thick snow boots from the straw. You weave mats. You weave bags. You repair every tool. You refletch your kuwa handle. You sharpen your kama. Hana is at her small wooden loom in the corner. The steady sound of the shuttle, the only rhythm of the winter. She's weaving new hemp cloth. The work never, ever stops. It just changes shape. The evening meal. The sun is gone. The hut is lit only by the dull orange glow of the hearth. You huddle together, your family, your wife, a shorter, younger male relative. You are eating watery millet gruel. a single salty pickle, maybe, a tiny salted fish, the size of your finger, which Hana has produced from a jar. It is shared between all of you, a tiny, savoury memory of the sea. You eat. You can see your breath in the smoky air. You are 40 years old. You feel 80. Your back is a permanent curved bow. Your joints are thick, swollen. You will finish your gruel, bank the embers in the hearth, and lie down on your straw-stuffed mattress, pulling the rough hemp blankets over you. You will huddle together for warmth. You will fall into a sleep of pure, bone-deep exhaustion, and you will wake up in the dark, to the cold, to do it all again. We look back at this world and we see art. We see woodblock prints of serene, misty landscapes, of farmers in conical hats. We see a culture of profound, Zen-like simplicity. But that simplicity was a lie. It was not simplicity. It was poverty. It was a brutal, engineered poverty designed to extract every last calorie from the bodies of the millions who were seen as just another part of the harvest. The entire glittering, sophisticated culture of feudal Japan, the silks, the poetry, the tea ceremonies, was built on the bent, aching back of Kensuke. It was paid for, grain by grain, by a man who grew the rice, but ate the millet, a man who created all the wealth, and was never, ever allowed to share in it. The Caravans of the Silk Road. We're going on one of the most famous journeys in history, the Silk Road. But we're not just going to talk about piles of silk, exotic spices, and merchants in fine robes. We're going to talk about the road itself, which wasn't a road, and the journey, which wasn't an adventure. We're going to look at the brutal, grinding, and often lethally boring reality of the men who actually moved the goods, the caravans of the Silk Road. If these slow journeys into the grit and the reality of the past help you find a moment of quiet in our modern, noisy world, a simple like or subscribe is always appreciated. It's a small click, but it's a huge help to the channel. The year is 1345 AD. The place is the city of Bukhara, a jewel of baked earth and blue-tiled domes. You are not a wealthy Sogdian merchant. You are not an Italian explorer. You are not a philosopher. You are a camel driver. Your name is Alim. And you are, in the grand, complex, glittering machine of the Silk Road, a single, greasy, replaceable cog. You are the man who does the actual work. You don't trade in silk. You trade in calluses, dust, and the profound, unending smell of camel. You live in a one-room mud-brick hovel in a maze of alleys, far from the grand tiled mosques and the bustling central market. You wake before dawn. The air in your room is cold, and it smells of old wool, wood smoke, and the faint, ever-present scent of dried animal dung. You pull on your clothes, a single long woolen tunic, patched and stiff with dirt. You wrap a length of cloth around your head. You pull on heavy, felt boots. Your breakfast is a piece of hard, flat barley bread, washed down with a wooden cup of weak, bitter tea. It is fuel. Nothing more. You walk through the sleeping city, your boots silent on the packed earth. You are heading to the caravanserai on the edge of the city. This is not a quaint inn. It is a massive, square, stone and mud fortress. It is a high-security warehouse, a shipping depot, and a very, very low-grade motel, all in one. You pass through the single, massive, wooden gate, and the smell hits you. It's the smell of 1,000 animals, all packed into the vast open-air central courtyard. The air is thick with the biting, acrid tang of camel urine and old straw. This is your office. You're part of a carwan, a caravan, a temporary mobile village of men and animals, assembled for one purpose: to not die between here and the next city. Your boss is a male merchant, a man with a grey beard and dark, worried eyes. He is not an adventurer. He is a logistics manager, a high-stakes gambler. He is risking his entire fortune on this one trip. He is leasing you, your labour, and your knowledge of the animal. You are a specialist. Your specialty is the Bactrian camel. This is the brutal reality of the Silk Road. It is not run on silk or gold. It is run on the Bactrian camel. A two-humped, surly, foul-smelling, and utterly miraculous creature. It is a biological machine. It can drink 30 gallons of water at a sitting, and then not drink again for a week. Its two wide-toed feet splay out on the sand, acting as natural snowshoes. It can carry 400 pounds. It also spits. A thick, green, foul-smelling stream of whatever is in its stomach. You have a healthy, professional respect for the animal. You know that it, and it alone, is what makes this entire insane enterprise possible. Your first job is loading, and this is not just throwing bags on a camel. It is a science. It is a brutal, physical, mathematical science. The male merchant, your boss, is frantic. He is supervising a team of male labourers, his inventory spread out on dusty carpets. You see bales, not bolts of silk. You see thick, heavy, canvas-wrapped, tar-coated, rope-bound bales. You have no idea what is in them. Silk? Rhubarb? Porcelain? Glassware? It doesn't matter. Your job is the weight. You and another male driver hoist a bale. It is heavy. You hook it onto a large wooden pack-saddle frame. Then you must find another bale of the exact same weight for the other side. This is the law. An unbalanced load will rub. A raw spot will appear on the camel's flank. That spot will get infected. And that camel will lie down in the desert. And it will not get up. An unbalanced load is a death sentence for the animal. And for the merchant's profit. You spend all morning lifting, weighing, shifting, and lashing. Your arms burn. The camel, your camel, just chews, its jaw moving side to side with a look of profound philosophical indifference. It does not care about the priceless, exotic goods. It only cares about the next handful of straw. Finally, the caravan is assembled. It is not a small, romantic band of travellers. It is a corporation, 50 camels, 20 male drivers and handlers, 10 male guards hired for the journey, a Karwan Bashi, a caravan leader, a professional guide who has walked this path 100 times, and the merchant, his face tight with stress. The massive gates of the caravanserai swing open. The lead camel, adorned with a single tinkling bronze bell, lurches to its feet. The others follow. The shuff, shuff, shuff of 50 camels, 200 splayed, padded feet begins. You step out of the shadow of the city walls, and you are in it, the vast, flat, grey-brown emptiness, the road. This is the brutal reality that no one talks about, the boredom. The romance of the Silk Road is a lie. The reality is a walk, an endless, grinding, soul-crushing, mind-numbing walk. You're walking next to a camel that smells like a wet carpet. The sun is a white-hot circle in a pale, empty sky. And there is nothing to see. Just flat, grey, gravelly plain. For as far as you can see, in every direction, you are an ant, crawling on a vast dinner plate. The sound is the only thing that changes. The rhythmic tink-tink-tink of the lead camel's bell. The endless shuff-shuff-shuff of the camel's feet. The whistle of the wind, a dry, hot wind that feels like it's coming from an oven. And the creak, creak of the wooden pack saddles, straining under their 400-pound loads. This is the soundtrack of your life. Tink, tink, shuff, shuff, creak, creak, asterisk, for 10 hours a day. Your day is a routine, brutal in its simplicity. You wake 2 hours before the sun. The air is freezing. The stars so bright they look like holes in the sky. You feel for your camel in the dark. You check its legs, its back, for sores, for trouble. You feed it a small ration of dry straw. You eat your ration, a piece of hardtack, a handful of dried apricots. You load the camel in the dark, the lashing of the ropes, your fingers stiff and numb from the cold. The sun rises. You walk. You walk all day. You do not ride. Riding is for the merchant and for the sick. You are a walker. The sun climbs. The heat becomes a physical thing, a heavy wool blanket pressing down on you. The dust, oh, the dust. It is not sand. It is a fine, grey, alkaline powder. It gets in your mouth. You chew it. It is in your eyes. They are rimmed with red. It is in your lungs. You have a constant, dry, hacking cough. Your skin, under your tunic, is chafed raw, from the dust, the sweat, the wool. Every step is a small, burning irritation. Midday. You stop for an hour. Not for you. For the sun. It is too hot to walk. The sun is a weapon. It is a white-hot hammer. You huddle in the only shade available, the shadow of your own camel. You sit, your back against its warm, greasy, smelly flank. You close your eyes. You chew another piece of hardtack. You take a single, precious, warm mouthful of water from your leather water skin. The water tastes of goat hide and tar. You do not rest. You endure. The merchant is pacing, his eyes on the sun. He is calculating the lost time. Time is water, and water is life. The sun dips, the shadows stretch, you stand, your body aches, your feet are two solid blocks of pain. Your back is a pillar of fire from the loading. You get the camel to its feet, you walk. You walk until the sun is gone, until the sky is a deep, cold purple. You stop, you unload. This is vital. You must unload the camel, to let its back rest, to check it again for sores. You unload 400 pounds of something. You stack the bales, you feed the camel, you make a fire. From what? From argol, dried camel dung. This is the fuel of the desert. It burns hot and almost smokeless. You huddle round the small glowing red fire. Your dinner is a bowl of hot something, a watery gruel made from millet flour boiled with a few precious scraps of dried goat meat. It is hot. That is all that matters. It is sustenance. You do not talk. You are too tired. You sit with the other male drivers. You stare into the fire. The silence of the desert is total. It is a vast, heavy, cold, ringing silence. You roll yourself in your heavy wool blanket. You lie on the cold, hard, gravelly ground. You are asleep in seconds. You sleep for 5 hours. And then you wake. 2 hours before the sun. And you do it all again. And then you enter the real desert, the sea of death, the Taklamakan. He who goes in does not come out. The gravel gives way to sand, vast, rolling, endless dunes of pale, yellow, shifting sand. And the brutal reality is the wind. It never stops. It screams. A high-pitched, constant whistle. It drives the sand like needles. It stings your face, your hands. You wrap your headcloth across your face, leaving only a small slit for your eyes. You are walking blind. You are not following a road. There is no road. You are following the bones. The caravan leader, your guide, is navigating by the skeletons, the white, sun-bleached bones of other camels. Other caravans. That did not make it. This is the Silk Road. It is a path marked by failure. You walk past the dried, leathery carcass of a camel, its teeth bared in a silent grin. You do not look. You just walk. The heat is a thing you cannot describe. It is not hot. It is 130 degrees. The sun is white. The The sand reflects it. You are walking inside a furnace. And the mirage. You see it in the distance. A lake. A shimmering blue lake. You can see the ripples. You know it is a lie. You know it is just heat. But your body screams for it. Your tongue is a dry, swollen piece of wood in your mouth. You do not run. You just lower your head and shuff, shuff, shuff. You are rationing water. The merchant watches the water barrels with a club. You get 1 cup in the morning, 1 cup at night. The camels get none. They are running on what they drank a week ago. Their humps are shrinking, flopping to the side. They are consuming themselves. You are all consuming yourselves. You are not travelling. You are surviving. This is not trade. It is a war against the sun. You survive the desert. You reach the oasis city, Kashgar, a place of water. You drink until you are sick. The camels drink for an hour. You rest for a week in another vast, filthy, loud caravanserai. And what now? The journey is not over. The desert was just the first test. Now you must face the ice. You must cross the Pamirs, the roof of the world. You leave the dusty warmth of Kashgar, and you begin to climb. The road is no longer flat. It is a path, a narrow winding ledge cut into the side of a mountain. A path of loose gravel and ice. You look to your right. It is a 1,000-foot drop. A straight, sheer drop into a roaring green river. You do not look. You look at the feet of the camel in front of you. Shuff, shuff. And the cold. It is cold you have never felt. It is not just cold. It is a physical thing. A knife. The wind roars down the canyon. It hits you. It feels like a solid wall. You pull your wool robe tight. It does nothing. The cold is inside your bones. Your fingers are numb. Your feet are numb. You cannot feel your feet. You just hope they are moving. And the air. This is the brutal reality. There is no air. You are 15,000 feet up. You try to breathe. You get nothing. It feels like you're breathing through a wet cloth. Your lungs burn. Your head is a drum. A slow, pounding boom, boom, boom. That shakes your vision. You are nauseous. You stop, lean over, and are sick on the side of the path. You wipe your mouth. And you keep walking. This is altitude sickness. It is the mountain ghost. A mule in front of you just stops. It shivers. Its legs buckle. It just lies down in the snow. Its handler pulls it. He shouts at it. The mule just looks at him with dull eyes. The merchant walks up. He looks at the mule. He looks at the path, which is blocked. He pulls out a knife. He does not harm the animal. He cuts the ropes. The 2 bales on its back are cut loose. He shoves them. They tumble off the edge. Down, 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 disappearing into the mist. He shoves the mule. It rolls off the edge. He does not watch. He turns. Keep moving, he says. That is the brutal reality. A fortune in whatever just vanished. The only thing that matters is the path. You survive the mountains. You reach another hub. And this is the great secret of the Silk Road. You are Alim. You are from Bukhara. You are not going to China. You never were. You will never see China. The Silk Road is a relay race. You just ran your leg. You ran from Bukhara to here. A journey of 6 months. In this new, dusty, cold caravanserai, your merchant meets another merchant, a Chinese merchant, a man with a long, thin beard. They do not speak the same language. They shout at each other in a third language, a trade pidgin. They point. They argue. They haggle. Your boss sells his bales. The ones that made it. The Chinese merchant buys them. His camels are loaded with your bales, and your camels are loaded with his bales. You turn around. You go back over the mountains, back through the desert. You are a truck driver. You have just dropped off a load and picked up a new one. That is the romance. You are paid, not in gold. You are paid in silver coins. A handful. Enough to feed your family for a few months. You are not rich. You are surviving. The journey home. It is just as brutal. But now you are lighter. You are carrying spices, perhaps. Lighter loads. You are also tired. A bone-deep fatigue. And you are vulnerable. One afternoon, on the flat plain, the caravan leader stops. He holds up his hand. The tink-tink of the bell stops. Silence. You look on the horizon. Dust. A small cloud of dust. Horsemen. 10 of them. Just sitting on their horses. Watching you. The hired male guards move to the outside of the caravan. They knock arrows to their bows. But they just stand. Your merchant is pale. His hand is on the hilt of his short sword. But he just stands. Nobody moves. The camels sit down. Chewing. The wind blows. You can hear your own heart. It is thumping. This is the danger. It is not a battle, it is a standoff. A silent, terrifying negotiation of intent. You wait. For 1 hour. The sun moves. The horsemen on the horizon talk to each other. Then, as one, they turn and ride away. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The merchant wipes his face. Get them up, he whispers. The tink, tink, tink begins again. You arrive back in Bukhara, a year after you left. You walk through the gate. You are changed. You are not the same man. You are 30 pounds lighter. Your skin is black from the sun, stretched tight over your bones. Your eyes are old. You cough. The dust is still in your lungs. You walk your camel into the caravanserai. You unload it. For the last time. The merchant counts his bales. He smiles. He has made it. He gives you your final pay. A few more coins. You walk back to your mud brick hovel. You open the door. Your wife looks at you. She nods. You are home. You are not an adventurer. You are labour. You are logistics. The Great Silk Road, we call it. A road of culture and ideas and wealth. But the brutal reality is that it was none of those things. It was a series of desperate paths across the most hostile places on earth. It was a chain of filthy stone boxes. And it was run by men like you, anonymous, exhausted, and walking. All for a bale of something that you would never own and never even see.